Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Gids. Thank you so much for joining me in today's video. Now, this is quite an impromptu video. I thought I'm just chilling at home and I thought if I was to pick my top 10 fragrances, which fragrances would I pick? And initially when I thought about doing a video like this, I thought, oh, it's such a hard video to do because I have so many favorites from my collection. But then I thought, well, it's a good way of knowing the fragrances that I truly love and what I truly want to keep in my collection and what I really enjoy. So these are the top 10 fragrances that I would happily have in my collection forever. My top 10. Okay, let's start with the first one, which needs no introduction. From the house of Frederic Malle, I'm going to talk about this one. This is Portrait of a Lady, and I've rocked with Portrait of a Lady for many years. Before it became so hyped, I fell in love with this fragrance. Gosh, it really takes me back every time I smell this to when I first discovered it, and it was all by chance. I didn't watch any reviews about this fragrance. I found out about Portrait of a Lady by speaking to someone who actually worked for Tom Ford, believe it or not. And she was talking about this amazing fragrance. And at that time it was a Liberty exclusive. So I had to go to Liberty to smell this. And I remember there were these French women who saw me walking up and picking it up to smell it. And they kind of nodded like to say, yeah. What is Portrait of a Lady? Well, if you don't know anything about this fragrance, which, let's face it, a lot of people who are into fragrances and niche will have heard of Portrait of a Lady. It is a rose dominant fragrance. I call this the rose to end all roses. Some people may disagree with that, but that's how I refer to Portrait of a Lady. This is a very rose dominant fragrance with some patchouli. It's got some cloves, some incense, some sandalwood. There's also raspberry in this, amber, vanilla. There's a lot of different notes, and it's a very luscious, rich, bold fragrance. To me, this is one which, when I wear this, I have to really commit to it because it is so strong. It's a fragrance which really holds on tight and doesn't let you go. And I, at the time, hadn't smelled anything like this. People find this challenging, I guess, because there is a maturity to the fragrance. I would say that. I think there's a lot of depth. I don't think it's a fragrance that someone who's really young would necessarily gravitate towards, but it's a very luscious, full-bodied, jammy rose fragrance with some lovely patchouli, some woods in this as well, and it's pure class. It is pure class. When I wear this, I feel very refined, and a little goes a long way. This fragrance here is beast mode. I remember I think it was 4 or 5 sprays of it, and it was too much for me. It really was. When I wear this now, I literally just do 2 sprays, and that is enough. That's how I enjoy it. So I would like to keep this in my collection for the foreseeable future, and I definitely would say it's a top 10 fragrance for life. So that is from Frederic Malle, Portrait of a Lady. Let's go to this fragrance here. Now, I have rocked with this fragrance, and the thing about me is when I was going through the ones that I wanted to talk about, I really looked at the fragrances which I've worn consistently over the years. I didn't just want to pick fragrances which I've recently fallen in love with, even though there's 1 or 2 here. I really wanted to focus on what I really love. And the nice thing about creating a top 10 or top 5 or whatever it is you really see the fragrances which you really love, wear and enjoy. And that can help you from over purchasing fragrances because you begin to see the scent DNA profiles that you really enjoy. Anyway, this is from, well, they're called by Terry. It was Terry de Gunsberg, but I think she's rebranded to just by Terry. And this is Terryfic Oud Extreme. And I still to this day, every time I wear this and smell it, it does something to me. This is rose, oud, leather and saffron. very, very strong, very, very rich. It's a very clean, more medicinal type of oud, but it's so refined, elegant, and smells so classy. That's the right term for it. It's classy. It's very, very rich. It's very bold. A little of this goes a long way, but I tell you what, once this fragrance dries down, it's magic, and it's so long lasting. It's so beautiful. There's also, as much as it's a loud fragrance, which if you overspray can be overwhelming, it also has a subtlety to it as well, which is a kind of a weird paradox. But it is a lovely, lovely fragrance. And I mean, I already have a backup of this because I got it for a really good price over a year ago. And I suspect I will be finishing this soon because I love wearing it and I really enjoy it. So, and this is the extrait version of the fragrance, because there's two. There's an EDP. This is the extrait concentration. What should we go to next? Let's go to Maison Francis Kurkdijan. Now this I ironically discovered before I discovered many of the other scents from Francis Kurkdijan. This is Oud Satin Mood, and I remember when I first smelled this was a fragrance which really just took my breath away. Instantly I was like, yeah, I have to own it eventually, and I did. And this is incredible, you know, oud, violet, amber, benzoin, beautiful fragrance, really wearable. It's sweet, it's long lasting, but it's not overly sweet. The oud just really dries down really beautifully. It's a fragrance that a lot of people who find ouds challenging tend to gravitate towards. There's something very opulent, very classy, again, very majestic about this fragrance. And I know it's a very hyped and popular fragrance, but for good reason. This is wonderful, and performance on this is excellent. I don't overspray this. Again, 2 sprays, and that is enough for me. I will not do more than 2, because I just find I don't want a headache and I don't want to choke people out, including myself. But it's one which is really special, and one which I just couldn't see myself not having this in my collection. Let's go to a very special fragrance next, and let's talk about Chanel. This is from the house of Chanel. This is Coromandel. Now, Coromandel for me hasn't always been a love. I remember when I first smelled this fragrance, I was like, what is that? Because I think this is very patchouli dominant, so you have to like patchouli. And like Portrait of a Lady, this is more of a wet, damp type of patchouli. I mean, sometimes patchouli can come across a bit more fresh and not as damp and earthy smelling, depending on how it's obviously blended in the fragrance. But this one has that type of scent profile alongside the sweetness of the vanilla, the amber, the incense. So I was always perplexed and confused by Coromandel, but this fragrance, it's incredible. It's incredible. When I did fall in love with this, I fell in love hard, and it's so classy again. I like very classy. As you can probably imagine, I like classy, elegant fragrances which have refinement to them, which are a bit more opulent. Not because I want to come across that way. Well, I suppose we all do, you know, there's no harm in wanting to come across classy and elegant, but I just adore this because I feel like every note in this is blended so smoothly that from when you first smell it, everything is just so beautiful. The scent profile, the DNA, the richness of the white chocolate in this as well, which makes it a bit sweet with that patchouli, the vanilla, the amber, the incense, the beautiful brightness in the opening of the fragrance. It's so classy and exquisite, and I love the story of this. This was inspired by Chanel's love of Coromandel screens, which are the beautiful screens that she saw in the Chinese shops that she visited, and she was obsessed with them, and she loved them so much that she filled her Parisian apartment with Coromandel screens. And I just think that's such a lovely story. So it pays tribute to more of the warmth of the fragrance. You know, you think of amber, you think of the notes that you will probably get from more, you know, from more of the Far East, the notes in this. So the ylang ylang, the amber in this, the vanilla, those types of notes generally were coming from the Far East and from other regions around the world. And she was inspired. So Coromandel has a very, very special place in my heart. And I think this is probably the best seller from the Chanel Les Exclusives line. This is my first Les Exclusives. I now have several, and it will always have a special place in my heart, and I will always want to have a bottle of Coromandel in my collection. Hibiscus Mahajad. Now, I mean, there's a significant dent in this one, and from Maison Criveli, this is Hibiscus Mahajad. I know that this was a very, very hyped fragrance, and I remember when I first tried this fragrance, I didn't know what to make of it. This is very, very, very strong. It's an extra concentration as well. So a little bit of this does go a long way, but I love rose, and you're gonna see, because I've got a few more rose-based fragrances in my list here. You know, Oud Satin, which has rose. I've spoken about Portrait of a Lady, which has rose. I've also spoken about Terryfic Oud Extreme, which has rose. So there is a theme of me and rose, and eventually I'll probably will do my rose fragrance video soon. But Hibiscus Mahajad is a rose-based fragrance, but it's a very interesting take on rose. It's got some leather in this, there's some cinnamon, there's some mint, and of course hibiscus. And hibiscus to me smells quite medicinal, so I get a bit of a medicinal, slight, fresh, earthy tone to the fragrance, but then it's very sweet at the same time, and there's a little bit of that mintiness that comes through, but ultimately it is a very strong fragrance. This is another one which I will only do a maximum of 2 sprays because it's so strong. And when I say to you, this fragrance will last and last and last. And not just that, it gets better the longer you wear it as well. So for me, when I sampled it in Harrods, and I didn't quite know what to make of it, but as the day went by, I kept smelling this fragrance. I fell deeper and deeper in love with it. So I just adore this fragrance, and as you can see, I just cannot stop wearing it. And what I love about this is because it's an extra concentration, I don't need a lot of it. So this is a 50 ml. This will still last me a very long time because it's so strong, and I'm not one to choke myself out. Like I like fragrances which perform well, but at the same time, I think there's a line between choking yourself out and wearing the fragrance in a really beautiful way, so it really shines. And I don't think this is meant to be oversprayed, just in my opinion. Everyone else can do what they want to do, but that's my thought. So this is Hibiscus Mahajad from Maison Criveli. This will always be in my collection. Let's talk about this fragrance here, which needs again, it needs no introduction. This is Escentric Molecules. This is Molecule 01, and this is really a molecular fragrance with just one molecule in the fragrance, which is ISO-E Super. Now, I call this my palette cleanse, and if you've never smelled ISO-E Super, it literally smells like cedar, or some people say pencil shaving, some people say the inside of a sauna, that kind of dry, woody smell. To me, it smells woody, dry, clean, and fresh. That's how I would describe it. And it smells different on everyone's chemistry. Some people say they can't smell it. Some people can. I have smelled this on people and it's very, very strong. To my nose, I can smell it. I use it to layer with other fragrances. I use it on its own. I wear it to the gym. So this is a very versatile fragrance for me. I think I'm on my 3rd bottle now. I've got one, as you can see, this is about to finish. I've got another backup bottle waiting for me to open. But I love Molecular One. I will always enjoy this fragrance, and I'll always have it in my collection. I get it, some people can't smell it, but you know, I can, so I love it. Jersey from the House of Chanel. Now, Jersey for me was a love at first sniff. When I first tried this in Chanel, I was like, wow, what an amazing fragrance. So how does Jersey smell? So Jersey is a fresh bright take on vanilla and lavender. There's a play between vanilla and lavender and white musk as well. There has to also be some lemon and fresh citrus notes in the fragrance because it's still, even though it has lavender and vanilla, there's something really bright and fresh about this fragrance. Very wearable, very elevated, very refined, and incredibly smooth and easy to wear. It even to my nose smells a bit waxy, and I don't know how to describe that smell, but slightly waxy, but in the best way possible. It's blended beautifully. It's blended so well. I mean, lavender and vanilla could have gone either way. I mean, it's not overly masculine, it's not overly feminine, it's just a beautiful meeting of all of that together. And I really love wearing this this fragrance. The performance is amazing on this as well, and I love layering it with Hibiscus Mahajad, and I also love layering it with Oud Satin Mood. Incredible. Those combinations to me give some luminosity when I wear those warmer fragrances, because even though there's depth to this, it's still really bright and uplifting at the same time. And oh my goodness, I think that when I finish this, I'll go for the big 200 ml bottle, because I love Jersey, and I'm gonna blast through this fragrance, and I just need to have it in my collection. So, Diptyque Eau Capitale. Again, as I said, I'm a rose lover. I love rose. This is such a great take on rose. This is, unlike Portrait of a Lady, I'd say this is a bit more of a wearable rose. I think Portrait of a Lady is very dense, very rich, very thick, very heavy. This is a bit of a brighter take on rose, but it still has patchouli in this as well. There is also some pink pepper, some amber. So it is a very fresh, sparkly rose with some lovely patchouli in there as well. Again, this was a love at first sniff, and I waited quite a while to buy this, even though whenever I'd go to Diptyque, I would always try this fragrance just to see if I still liked it on each visit. And I sampled it about 7 or 8 times before I finally pulled the trigger. I wore this consistently for about a month. I just kept wearing it. And I'm not afraid to put dents in my fragrance. I think this for me is a really wearable, clean rose. That's how I would describe it. It's very wearable, it's very clean, and it's Diptyque. Diptyque has an elegance to the brand, which I think is so effortless. There's something very effortless and chic about Diptyque, the brand, and I love Diptyque. I have 3 of their fragrances. If I was to add one more, it'll probably be Orpheon, because Orpheon I think is amazing. It's really grown on me over the years, and it's one which I always come back to, but right now I'm not trying to buy too many fragrances. But Eau Capitale is so special to me, and yeah, I would always want this to be in my collection, absolutely. Atomic Rose from Initio. Guys, I said I'm a rose lover, but this fragrance here, this is like a young, fresh take on rose. It's just, every time I smell it. Again, in the similar vein to Eau Capitale, this is even fresher than Eau Capitale, because this has some really bright, fresh notes which are really prominent in the opening of the fragrance. But there's a little bit of a pink pepper in this as well. Like, it pricks you a bit with the pink pepper, but then there's this lovely Turkish rose which comes through, and it kind of has this really inviting, lovely, sweet, warm texture wrapped around some amber and some vanilla. And it's one of those rose fragrances which I find intoxicating. It's one of my most worn fragrances, not just rose fragrances, one of my most worn. I wear this all the time, at least in a week. I would say 3 times a week, if not more. You know, in the mornings when I'm rushing out of the house, I would just spray myself, douse myself in this, because it is a rich and quite long-lasting scent, but it's not offensive. It's not overwhelming. It has presence, it will stay on clothes a long time. On skin, it's probably about 6 to 8 hours on my skin. But people compliment this one. People always, whenever I wear it, people do say, what are you wearing? I mean, Portrait of a Lady gets a lot of compliments as well, but Atomic Rose, people really give me a lot of compliments on this fragrance. I mean, I need to do an updated video about compliments, but people love this, and I really love this. I like how bright and uplifting this rose fragrance is from Initio. Yeah, I always need this in my collection, Atomic Rose. It's incredible. Last but not least, we have one of my beloveds, Terre Hermes. And of course, for, you know, just everyday errands, you know, just running around, or, you know, even as a work fragrance, or perhaps meeting friends, or just something when I'm at home, I have my Terre Hermes in the EDT concentration. I just think this is such a wonderful fragrance, so excellently executed, very fresh but woody and dry and crisp, and it's just incredible. It's a really incredible fragrance. There's, you know, as I said in my recent video, this for me is a fragrance which I really love wearing in the autumn months, but you can wear this all year round. It has that versatility, because all of that fresh warmth and woods and earthiness and crisp sort of nature to the fragrance really works in all seasons. And it's amazing. It's amazing. And again, like all of these fragrances, the longer you wear it on skin, the better it will get. Really classy, very, very classy. And I do find Hermes and their fragrances very, very classy. So there we are. Those are my top 10 fragrances for life. It feels weird saying that, because even when I was trying to get these fragrances, it was so hard, because I wanted to pick that one and add that one and add that one. And I was like, no, you have to be disciplined. What are the fragrances that you really, really love so much you would want these in your fragrance collection for life? And to be honest, it's these. I think I've got a bit of a good selection of everything. And I really enjoy wearing these so much. So those are my thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for bearing with me till the end. And let me know which of these fragrances perhaps you like. Have you tried? And if you don't like them, that's fine. Comment something down below about them. And yeah, share with me perhaps what is one of your top fragrances for life. I would love to know. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you've made it to the end, give me a big thumbs up, leave a comment down below. And of course, if you're not subscribed, please do consider subscribing. It does help my channel to grow. And I will see you in my next video. Take care.